You've probably heard the saying that everybody has a story to tell. Well, this week I've been pondering the idea of storytelling and why it's important, what it means to tell the story. When we think about the story of the road to Emmaus, more often than not, the temptation is to fast forward right to the very end and to focus on the moment where everything becomes clear. The moment when Jesus breaks the bread, the disciples put two and two together, and Jesus' identity is revealed. That, after all, is where the story has been taking us. And a phenomenally powerful story it is too. It's full of meaning and symbolism that hasn't been lost on generations of preachers and worshippers alike. Often we do fast forward to concentrate on the end. But actually, the bit in the middle, to me at least, is equally significant. The bit in the middle is where the stories unfold. It's where the men travelling the road to Emmaus, in the company of the stranger, gradually make sense of their situation. It was in light of their shared storytelling that later on in the encounter, the penny dropped, and the two men realised who they were talking to. The end wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the bit in the middle. You might say that revelation comes after the stories have been told. We human beings are natural and gifted storytellers. We make sense of our experience by replaying what we've been through or what has happened. The disciples told their story to a stranger, and in return, the stranger told his story. The disciples' story was, I would guess, one of abject grief, hurt, injustice, anger, despair, fear. Jesus' story told how history and tradition and received wisdom had all converged on this particular moment in time. His connectedness with ancestors and prophets and history, and how what had happened had fulfilled what was predicted in another time and by other people. And it's clear that Jesus talked in depth and with animation. It's clear he stayed with the disciples in their grief and with them in their journeying, and that he listened to the story of their lives. It's when human beings engage in honest and meaningful conversation that revelation can occur. And it was the honest and meaningful conversation between Jesus and the disciples that allowed the disciples to stumble across their own moment of revelation. The journey was made, the stories were told, hospitality was offered. Maybe the signs had been there, but it was the breaking of the bread that was the eureka moment. These are unprecedented times in our lives and in our world. Metaphorically, at least, we also find ourselves somewhere on the road with an end that isn't, so far at least, in sight. And we're also telling our story to one another. We're already engaging in meaningful and different ways with strangers who are on that journey beside us, whether they're neighbours near or far, whether connected across the parish or across the continents. And it's precisely through these encounters, through hearing and actively sharing in one another's stories, we each lay the foundation for God's revelation to us. Everybody has a story to tell. And every human story is the story of a journey, the journey of life. And the telling of the stories of our lives and experience allow God to break into our awareness and make himself known. Christ is with us on this journey, even when we don't recognize him. And so, in the week that lies ahead, with whatever it happens to bring for you and for me and for our loved ones, May our conversations become the means by which we will recognize God's hand and presence in our lives.